It's your boy JH Gibbons here.
We'll see.
And welcome to yet another episode of the Achromous Podcast. Wherever you are today, we want to thank you for joining us on this episode. If you're listening on Spotify, again, we thank you. But most of all, if you're watching us, here's what I want you to do. I want you to hit that subscribe button. I want you to hit that like button. And I want you to hit that notification bell, assuming you are on YouTube. The next time that you log in onto YouTube and you scroll down that feed, one of the very first videos you will see will be the latest episode of the Achromous Podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, most of all,
hey, listen, guys, we tell them this every single week, and I have no shame in my game and keeping it a constant reminder because it's about building healthy habits here. This is what we do. It is free to do so, meaning it is free to get these gems and to be able to be the first one to get it, or one of the first. Like it. You got to make sure to like it so we can spread that around. Subscribe to this content. Smash that like button if you got to, guys. And make sure to spread it around to all your friends, your family, your loved ones, anyone that you want to have grow with you and grow with us in our community. Please be sure to do so. And again, there's not too many things that's free. This is one of them. So take advantage of it. And besides, I like reminding Jay about this all the time. So please be mindful to do these things, guys, so I can keep doing it each and every single week.
That's unbelievable. Again, there aren't many things out here free. Thank goodness gas is going down a little bit more so I can hold on to my money a bit. But I'm shocked that it is, we're giving this thing away without a cost at all. We'll see what another week it has been, man. This past week, I got to say, keeping hope alive spoke volumes to me because it was very difficult to do so this week. It's just whether it's work, whether it's the things that are going on around the world, life in general. It's been very tough. And I know I'm not speaking for myself. I'm sure I'm speaking for many different members of the community. But at least on my end, one takeaway that I've had trying to get through this week is to make sure I keep a perspective. I have to make sure that I understand what gratitude looks like for me. I have to make sure that I keep myself in the present and not necessarily worry about things that may have happened in the past or things that might come in the future. So that's something I've been working on this week. And it has helped. It has helped a bit. I must admit it's a very difficult week in general, but I would say that Keeping Hope Alive podcast, going back and listening to some of the gems you dropped, some of the gems I have been dropped, it was very helpful this week.
Oh yeah. Just to keep that flow going on what you're talking about. Yeah, it was definitely a reflection of the theme for the week ahead, right? So just being more mindful through the more difficult moments and just accepting what they were, and that is a part of your growing process, right? It's part of the development of learning oneself. So it was a lot of that happening this week, and to just be hopeful in the fact of knowing that better will come if you are willing to allow yourself to go through the process and just embrace it for what it is, because it is a part of the journey, as we always say, right? Like finding the joy in the journey. So us being able to have that conversation last week and to just kind of go into it as a transition to where we're headed this week was awesome, because it did help put things in perspective, and to just be thankful and just have gratitude that, I'm aware and I'm conscious of that. And I'm sure you all felt the same way. And I know you felt that way too, Jay.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely, man. And look, I think especially this week for our next guest, it's important to hold on to what our self-perception is. Like there are a lot of distractions in this world, and sometimes we may get to a point where we may actually forget who we are. We may get lost, right? We don't really know who we're supposed to be or where we're supposed to go. We don't know what our purpose is, and especially when you're losing something like that for the sake of survival at a young age, it is very, very detrimental to your health, your mindset, your well-being. So I'm proud that our next guest here is not only hopeful, he's not only keeping hope alive, but he is trying to build a community around those emotionally damaged Black men who feel lost, but they also have a talent, and sometimes that talent may be unknown to them. Well, today, the gentleman that we're about to have on, he knows his talents. He understands his purpose now, and we want our Achromous community to get a chance to listen to his story and understand exactly what it takes to keep hope alive, to keep growing, and to keep striving. So, episode 62 welcomes none other than Herc to the Achromous Podcast. Herc, welcome to the Achromous Podcast. How are we doing today, my man?
Hey, y'all. Jamal, Will, my brothers from another mother. It's good to, it's just been so long since we've chatted, we go way back like car seats. So I truly appreciate it. I've been looking at y'all from afar, see what you guys have been doing. And I got to say, I fell in love with it because, and again, you spoke of keeping no hope alive, purpose. And it just took me a little while to realize that sometimes, when you're desperate, when you're hopeless, it affects your development as a person. So you guys just helping folks, especially, Black people in general, but, Black men in particular. I can only speak for, from a perspective of a Black male and all the other accolades, if you must, whether it's like from an immigrant or, just West Indian man or, whatever the case may be. I can only speak from that perspective. So, I truly appreciate the opportunity you guys are giving me today. So thank you.
Absolutely, man. And look, I was intrigued by your story. I know we had back and forth before this episode, and speaking of perspective, we wanted to get a chance to learn about yours a little more. I know you mentioned the West Indies. I know you mentioned your younger childhood, but tell us exactly where you're from, how you got here, some of the challenges that you may had along the way.
Yeah. So I was originally born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Funny story. I don't know if my mama was lying, but she said I was born in a taxi cab. Couldn't wait. Push myself out. I've been on a run. I've been on the go ever since I touched down. But honestly, I can't verify that, folks. So, but that's what she kept telling me. Grew up in Haiti. It was, I would say, it wasn't, looking back, looking at what's going on down there right now. It really, I was very fortunate, had the opportunity to go to good schools. But I also could look around me and see the abnormality. And at times, that would hit your doorstep. So, forward, it was like, there's always been political turmoil. So you, at a very young age, you kind of learn about just surviving, just making sure. And you're like 5 years old and you're like, okay, I can't go down that block because, people are going crazy, and it's really again, back then it didn't make so much sense, but you realize how as an adult, you realize how much that broke you. It built you in a way, but it also broke you because you become naturally, what's the word? You skeptical of everything, but you just think it's like, like, I don't trust nothing or nobody, but that really can stem from that level of abnormality. And I remember my mother, bless her soul, she used to say, don't ever normalize the abnormal. And no matter how much you're in it. And I think that is one thing that kind of kept that sense in me, that, okay, you know what? I know that this is my day-to-day, but this is not a normal situation. And subconsciously, it bothered me, but it took me a while to really put my hand on what was going on. So fast forward to 2010, after high school, actually, I graduated high school in 2008. In Haiti, you graduated a year later. Graduated high school in 2008. And then in 2010, I'm like a year and a half into my college, and the earthquake happens. So I'm in this classroom, right? I can't make this up. I'm in this classroom, and they were doing construction outside. Now, in my mind, I'm thinking, because I've never experienced an earthquake before, maybe like a long time ago when I was a kid, we had a little tremor and everybody lost their shit, but it wasn't really, it wasn't really like oh snap. Sorry, I had to call him. It wasn't nearly as bad. So hold on, let me put my phone on do not disturb. Yeah, so it wasn't nearly as bad. So, but fast forward, I'm in the classroom and I was dating this girl at the time. I remember very vividly. It started at first, and I'm like, yeah, it's just they're just doing construction outside. Let me not worry about it. Then we realized at some point that dust was coming from the ceiling to the ground. I'm like, Jesus, I felt like an archaeologist for a second, like, what the hell? Like, and then that's when everybody rushed out the door. And I remember my this dude, Dominique, he pushed this girl, like shoved this girl to the side so he can make it to the door. It was but you realize in situations like this, like what people are really made of, although it's instinct, it's subconscious, but I knew Dodo, that's how we called him. And he was really that guy. He will really save himself first, not to put anything on the man, but that's really what happened. So, that being said, I myself, I was rushing out the door too, but I still look back, my girl, I make sure she was good. And as we are like, it was movie, like, I ain't gonna lie to you. So thankfully the business the building didn't really start crumbling very seriously until we got out. So we jumped out, like, because it wasn't really it was like we were on the lower level and there was these steps. So we jumped out, grabbed my girl. She still managed to hurt her ankle. I don't know how. So anyways, that happened. And as we got out of the building, the building was like, you guys ever been to New Orleans, those French type of buildings?
Oh yeah.
It was that kind of building. So they call them gingerbread houses.
Mhm.
That was a gingerbread house. So the house just started crumbling, like collapsing on itself. And I could see but nobody died in that building. And then as we got out, I could see every single building around us just crumbling down like sand castle. It was crazy. And thankfully nobody that was in the school at the time was hurt, but there are like walls that fell on cars. But now the real development is when we got out of the gate, and man, it was like a war zone. I don't want to be gruesome, but I've seen a thing or two. I mean, and mind you, before that, I had already seen stuff. So I'm building up trauma as a person, unaddressed traumas, because part of our culture is about it's the Black culture in general. We have a very suck it up culture. You know what I'm saying? Until you die of a fucking heart attack from holding it all in. And but that's what that was. So I'm carrying all this weight, insecurities, all the BS. And I know this is a tangent, but I'm trying to help you understand the all the implications of everything that somebody goes through. So after that, I walked my lady to her house. Everybody was fine. And I remember we lost signal and we couldn't call nobody. Like my pops was, everybody trying to call me. We couldn't call nobody. So I remember the thought process I had, because I'm one of those people. I don't know if it's a good thing, or I used to be one of those people. If something happens and I make myself believe that I came to terms with it. So, and then I'm just gonna have to move forward. And I'm telling you, like, it doesn't matter how much love I have for anybody, but I'm just gonna be like, it is what it is. I gotta keep moving. It's just probably part of a dysfunction too. So I said to myself, you know what? There is 90% chance that everybody I love is dead right now. If the house is, collapsed on itself, I just know where I keep my passport. Just grab the passport and fly to the States. That is literally what my thought process was, because at that point, what I saw, I just couldn't fathom the idea of at least one person I knew not going. So I already made peace with it. In like, once I saw everything around me, and I remember my father raised me like that too. He was like, yo, duty first. So you got to suck it up, then you cry later. He didn't even say cry. He was like, you'll deal with it later. And, I got in my car, I drove through all these rubbles and the bodies. I had a pickup truck at the time, and I remember because I lived like outside of the city, and I remember picking up a couple folks because they couldn't, there was no transportation. I picked them up, and I remember a lady, man, it's some gruesome stuff. Her her foot was hanging by like just a little ligament. That was it. Like, and you driving, and it's just, but you're numb to it all. Like you driving, and I'm like, man, I've always been good at keeping a cool head in like fucked up situations. So, and I don't think it's necessarily a good thing because I'm just suppressing a lot. I'm not processing nothing. I'm like, and I know myself by now, the harder that I ignore things, the more it's going to hurt later. So that's what I was doing. I'm driving my truck, headed home. I'm like, I'm going to get my passport. Like, I didn't even think about my folks. Like, I was like, there's no point. I don't even know. Most of those people, they will never be found. Like, imagine 9/11. Some people were in there. Like, some people just didn't see their people come back home. They just had to assume. So that was the same thing for me. I was like, well, how the hell am I ever going to find those people? So what, I'll just make peace with it when I'm, you know what I'm saying? So I was on the freeway, at least what we call the freeway, and I see somebody pull right next to me, and there goes my pops. He's like, yo, Herc. I'm like, shit, you're alive. Okay, bet. It was, and he was like, you good? You good? I'm like, yeah, man. And he looked at the truck, and he was like, yo, everything good? I was like, yeah, they just need a ride. So I gave him a ride closer to where I lived. They got off the truck, went home, and my mother, she was alive at the time. She just was hysterical. My mother's always been like so I pulled up. And so me and my pops, we pulled up at the same time. So this woman, mind you, the funniest part about this is that day she was sick. I remember that very vividly. And where she was gonna go, everybody died because the building collapsed. Yeah, it was such a weird situation. I'm like trying to understand how a lot of those people made it. Everybody that lived at my house, a lot of my family, everybody made it. We walked in and she just lost it, man. So, and then, man, at the day after, my pops was like, yo, so what are we doing, man? This is, your school is gone. And I had a job at the time. I was working with my pops actually on the brokerage clearance business, and I was doing pretty well at the time. For somebody that lived there, I was having a good time. But still dealt with a lot. And then fast forward, I think because it happened January 12th, around maybe February, that's when we decided we were trying to figure out what to do. And I was like, you know what? I was supposed to go to Miami at first. And and it was like with my childhood friend, with my childhood best friend. I was supposed to move in with him. But I've been around this dude, like, because I used to come to the States before, and I'm talking about, I've been around, and I was young and reckless. And I was like, yo, if I move to Miami, I will die in a year, at least, like tops. I'm over here thinking to myself, I had not survived an earthquake to get shot by some Miami goon. And I know I got a temper. Like, you're not good. No, sir. So I made the tough decisions with the little bit of, just consciousness that I had. I was like, I'm going to move to DC. I'm going to move to Maryland with my aunt. She's like a church going lady, and that's like where my life took a turn, yo. Like, so I had to, the airports in Haiti were just, it was gone. So what I had to do was, I was with my mother and we took a bus to the DR. I remember before I got on the bus, my pops didn't even, he didn't even say goodbye. He just wanted to, he didn't want me to feel some type of way. And I remember getting on the bus with my mom's, and we just going to the DR. and that's why I had to catch my flight at, and I remember just looking at my mother, and I know it's the last time I'm ever gonna live in the same place as her. And it still didn't hit me until we landed in Miami. At first it was a layover in Miami, and then after that, flew to DC. And when I saw the snow covered houses, and I knew, like, I'm just, because I realized, this changed, and I'm 19, 20 years old. You don't realize how young you are at 19. Like, you think you're grown. You think, and that's so funny. Our culture is like, oh, you 18, you move out the house. No, nigga, it's hard. Like, you processing so fucking much. It's not, you know what I'm saying? I'm like undergrown as an individual. I have all my issues, like everything. And on top of that, I'm piling onto it is this, all the bullshit I dealt with from childhood up to now, a fucking situation that I'm not even processing right. So as soon as the plane touched down and they starting to head to the gate, tears started dropping down my eyes. Like, everything I bottled in, lost friends. I lost like two of my best friends. That hurt. And everything, just my mind started regurgitating things like, whoa, bro, what in the, and
So Herc, may I ask, interject just to ask a question?
it's all good, man. Just go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just so like, I guess that part there, right, where because yeah, it sounds like it was just compact of emotions, of a lifetime of emotions from a life that was, especially coming from a different country to a new country, right? And just, I guess, realizing that adjustments were going to have to be made at that point in your life as a young man, as a very young man, and just trying to process that. I'm just curious as to, like, you were speaking on it more so from the Black culture of men, and as it relates to us and our emotions, right? Because I would say, like, it's more of a stigma of it being an American Black culture of that process, but here you are from another country, and that's still kind of the thought for a Black man, where we have to hold ourselves to a certain standard to not feel emotion. So when you got to a point where you were, the dam broke enough where emotions came through. So I guess I'm wondering, like, how has that transition from that part of your life, and as you are, to whom you are today, and like, how are you processing your emotions from those sort of experiences, like, fast forward in between then, from childhood up until 19, to the gap in between, which is leading to who you are today. Like, so like, as a Black man, what would you say to a younger you at that point, to someone who is coming abroad from another country in 2022, that has that mindset, that has lived a life where they have suppressed their emotions, women to anyone, but for the most part, that is, for the first time in their life, really adjusting to real change? Because you said yourself that you had visited the stateside before, so, but it's a difference when this is your now, right?
Home now.
So
it's different.
What would you say? Like, what was your thought process on that question?
Here's the deal, man. You don't know what you don't know. So it's not, you know what I'm saying? It's like the thing about understanding is first starts with empathizing, with connecting with a situation. So let's say you talking to an 18-year-old, or your 18-year-old self, and you came out, like, for instance, something people used to tell me, they'd tell me like, once you find the right woman, you know what I'm saying? Like, or at least the one you think is right for you, you're gonna kind of move different. You're gonna sacrifice some things. You're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. I couldn't empathize with that situation because I don't know what I don't know. You know what I'm saying? What I would tell a younger person, because one thing you also don't want to do is you have to give people the leeway to learn. So therefore, you cannot try to carve their own path for them. I would tell my younger self, keep an open mind. Just, be vigilant, use discernment for some 19-year-old is very limited. But just keep an open mind and don't fight it. Like, just let it happen. Be diligent, but listen, it's all gonna get better. It's just really just go with the flow. Sometimes you have to have things planned out if you're that kind of person. But keep an open mind and be kind. It's two things. Those are the things that saved me, because I wasn't an asshole. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know. There's a lot I had to learn, but I also was a charismatic person. And that just opened a lot of doors for me. It made me, people, and also admitting that you don't know. Like, I know I've had know-it-all ways, but I'm always that kind of dude that I'm just, I try to be as candid as I possibly can. And I don't believe in people taking advantage of people. I feel like it's always something to learn from it. So I allowed myself to, and back then I was doing it subconsciously, but I was like any 19-year-old curious, and I was intrigued by just the drastic difference of the drastic change of reality. But I also had an open mind, but you're still gonna carry your brokenness until you develop a strong enough sense of self, and which is where patience is important, which is where, because you can't, there's only so much you can ask from someone that's developing. Now, don't get me wrong, like I'm not condoning, like, just a certain level of recklessness that can lead to you harming others. You know what I'm saying? I don't condone it, but I'm saying, like, we've all been at that point in our lives. We're underdeveloped, and sometimes us bugging about some things is really a poor attempt to trying to process some emotions. Like, at that point, back to me in the plane, I don't think I was processing anything. I think I was attempting to, but I couldn't make sense of it, because I was never, I wasn't there. I was never taught to embrace how I felt. I was never thought to, that's the reason why most women are more emotionally intelligent, because they are allowed to experience their emotions at a very young age. So they become acquainted to them, and then they happen to become smarter, because once you know what I'm saying, once you got your emotions in check, you can run the world. You can. So as people are just going to develop into what they need to develop, but ultimately what you need is a very solid sense of self, not in a sense where you so set in your ways, but more so in a way where it's like, okay, you know what, you even become okay at not being okay. And that is, I think, one of the most important thing that I've had to learn is just sometimes, like, yo, dog, I ain't got it in me. I really don't. I will cuss you out right now, and I'm sorry, but I also know when I'm too tired, let me get away from this. Sometimes I'm so tired and I'm thinking I'm depressed and I'm making decision off of that. But in reality, I just need some sleep and to eat. So that comes with self awareness, and that comes with time. It comes with patience. So be patient and just let it happen until you figure it out, I guess, whatever that means.
I think at least personally for me, your story is powerful. To be able to, even before the earthquake happened, the things that you've had to witness out there in Haiti, and then to know that you're coming here to start. When I say start anew, it's you being here, right? This is going to be your new home, and you have to find your way through it, and you've done just that. And I know, especially speaking with Black men who, you're right. We're taught to suppress our emotions. We're taught to keep it inside, to be strong, to run our household. It's just what we've been taught to do as kids. But what ends up happening is as we grow, we tend to be lost. We tend to not fully understand ourselves emotionally. And I know one of the things that you have hopes in is to be able to reach out to those who are emotionally damaged from their past, the things that they've suppressed, the things they continue to suppress. And so I wanna understand your plan or your position more, to help out the community, for those who are still struggling, for those who are still looking for a way, for those who are extremely talented and they may not know, or they may not have an avenue to approach. How are you planning to help them?
Well, I have to start with myself, like how I managed to um just become secure enough to even have a purpose, to even, have a sense of direction. Um, First of all, uh, I would say the first thing is just put your ego to the side. Not Don't be afraid to ask for help. And it's because sometimes you may not even know what you're looking for. It's usually your essence, your subconscious, just kind of like Venom, and he just trying to cling on to a host. That's how your subconscious is. You expose it to enough things, and it's just trying to see, okay, do I love basketball now? Do I love this? Do I love that? It's the more you expose yourself to things, you become lucky at being lucky. And I learned that from a book. I'll give you the name when I remember it, but I think honestly, man, I really I grew up with very little self-confidence. You got some of those things that they dwarf your development when you allow it to get to you. The first thing I would love to do, honestly, and it starts with this, a podcast where you have folks, you guys have an audience, and you have people that listen, and it's okay not to have it all figured out. That I want to teach people that, because I promise you, that is the best, especially when you're younger. That is the best position to be in. You become you're curious. You allow yourself to doubt yourself. And what that does is, what I did for a very long time was I allowed myself to doubt myself. And I didn't do it always consciously, because it affected my self-perception. So it hurt me in some ways. But over time, I I did enough. I've accomplished enough to realize that I'm not a fan of unearned confidence, that I really have some substance. Then I became, the way I interact with doubt, with self-doubt, is different now. You know, it's more so like I built a whole company around allowing myself to know that I don't know everything. Almost on a daily basis, I pick people's brains, and they give me singular ideas. And all I do is I have the ability to make it make sense. And that's my superpower. And then boom, there is an operational framework for you. You see what I'm saying? So that is, and that comes back to a sense of self. Just it allows me to just be like, I don't know everything. I don't have it all figured out. But you might. Or what's your idea? What's your opinion on that? Sometimes you gotta help people hear themselves talk, hear themselves. And that is one way in my everyday life, even with what I do. I have my company, and I'm also uh, a head staffer for another company, that the much larger company that does the same thing. Um, and that's how I deal with my staff. I ask them questions, and even if I have the answers, I'm always willing to listen to a different perspective, because I believe that there are multi-angular approaches to things, And I think that's one way I do help. It's just helping people. Sometimes you ask someone a question and they're like, you got their look, they got that look on themselves like, you're so much smarter than me. Why do you ask me? But you understand what that does to someone when you make them feel like, hey, I trust you enough to trust your perspective on this. What do you think? I genuinely want to know. And I think that's what a lot of people like us have to start doing, because sometimes when you get to that point where people start looking up to you, you get on your high horse and you're going to start saying things like, well, I always had a plan. I woke up at 7 every day and I wrote in that book. I worked myself $1 million check. Like, get the fuck out of here, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just hate that kind of stuff. I'm sorry, but it's not my cup of tea. I come to people telling them, listen, it's hard out here. We all going through that human experience. There's no blueprint to it. All you need is some like-minded people that understand that life is as hard, but we're going to figure it out together. We're going to use all the means that we have. We're going to ask for help. If we don't have the resources, we're going to go find the resources. If we're emotionally broken, we're going to therapy. If we're going to help each other out in our brokenness. We're going to go through it together. And I promise you, man, it's so crazy how sometimes things happen. Life is not always as streamlined. Success is not always as streamlined as people think. Sometimes all your mind need is a click. That's how the mind works. You're literally electricity, neurological activity, neurons, neural pathways. So your mind doesn't always need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, sometimes it needs a click. It's that spark, that electrical pulse. You know what I mean? And that does not, sometimes it just happens by mistake. You see something and something clicks, you have an epiphany. And I think we need to start teaching people that, yes, there needs to be structure in your approach to success, but sometimes it gets chaotic. Sometimes the road it serpents around, it curves, it loops around, and then you become comfortable at being uncomfortable. Then you realize, oh snap, okay, I can do this thing, so that's just, honestly, that's my take, man. It's just my take, because I promise you, like, I can't even say I'm the smartest guy. I'm just good at figuring things out. I promise you that. And that took years of training for me to accept that I was capable. It's not overnight. That is hard.
So if I may, just for a sec, what I took from everything is your will and persistence of just remaining consistent in your development.
That was my biggest consistency, man.
That right there.
I love it how you put it. That was one thing. No matter how shitty I felt about everything else in my life, I said to myself, I always gonna be forward moving, even if I don't like, especially at times when you feel inconvenience. You're like, damn, I wish or you're looking back, you're like, dog. But then when you put things into perspective, and the day you do, because what I did, which helped me a lot, was I was grinding really, really hard. I'm talking about going through ups and downs. I went through every possible range of emotions, allow myself to bathe in it. I had to understand shame. For a man, oh my goodness, I had to bathe in shame to get to I had to understand empathy. I had to understand fear. Like fear, listen, if you do not ever allow yourself to fear, you have to understand, and there is no negative emotions. I don't believe in that. They all come out of the same faucet. It's all about perspective, really. You can, the same anger that you can use to break a desk is the same one you can use to be Floyd Mayweather. You know what I'm saying? It's just, so everything there's two sides to a coin. And I've always been consistent, had been annoyed at the status quo. Like, man, I always felt like I wasn't doing enough. Even when people was like, yo, Herc, this and that. And I'm like, dog, I don't know why, but I'm not comfortable with this. I have to I'm not comfortable. And I never felt good enough. I never my sense of self was never solid enough for me to accept, yo, Herc, you're doing your best. And I promise you, at the time when I was doing where I was at, if I started believing in myself as much as I do now, it wouldn't have worked for me, because I would have been complacent with that mindset. But now it's like I'm already on grind mode. Like I'm like, there's nothing that's gonna disrupt that. But now I'm like, yo, you know what? I know when to chill now. Okay, Herc, we've worked really hard. Let's just sit back and at least, get cheer, just round of applause. Wake up and when because sometimes you gotta just smell the roses too. If you go too fast, you can catch the scent. So I'm learning that as an adult. Like the best thing is patience. It's not, the best thing is sometimes it will not always be the way you want it. Sometimes it's just gonna take a different form, and you gotta be able to take the shape of the container, or sometimes you gotta bark back. Sometimes, and it's just it's beautiful. Like, so I think it takes time, and we still growing, we still young, but I think I'm little by little, I'm fine. I'm living a life that works for me. I don't want to be pretentious to say I'm living the life. I'm just living a life that works for me, and that's all I can ask for.
Hey, listen, and to sum that up, and Jay, want to get your perspective on it, but something you said earlier that just set off like a light bulb was the human experience, because that's really what all of this is, right? Like all summed up, and you put it beautifully, Herc, like the human experience, and you're living it as best you can, and you're being patient with yourself through the process of learning you. Again, the joy of the journey is a matter of perspective. Of your perspective is everything in life, as I'm learning. My maturity at this point was perspective is huge in your life, because there are things and events and circumstances that you go through and experience, but perception will always help to navigate your direction with it, right? And the patience required to see yourself through it, and you should be better for it. No matter what you're going through, you should find methods of development to be better for whatever you're experiencing. What's your take on that, Jay?
No, I think you're absolutely spot on. I think going back even to childhood to where you are now, there are so many things that you've experienced that you could even make a book about it. You can make that book and share your experiences with others, because there are people who are having troubles understanding perspective. They're having troubles understanding what life truly is about, and the struggle is something that I think many people, when they hear your struggle versus theirs or somebody else's, it really puts a perspective on things. They definitely would understand what gratitude means, how to be gracious. They would understand exactly. They would understand patience as well, right? I think only through growth you can understand patience, because you have to go through certain things. You have to learn those lessons as you continue to move on to understand, okay, I can't approach this the same way I did in the past. I have to take another route. I have to do this a much different way. So I think, Wilson, you're on point when you said that this is the human experience for all of us, right? Even for community growing, for Herc's community that he's growing, this is all part of the human experience. And look, it is beautiful, right? It's beautiful. Herc, you're absolutely right. We don't know. We don't know.
We don't know.
The willingness to the willingness to grow, the willingness to understand everything around you is what is going to continue to help you grow.
Oh yeah, it's and I want to touch on something. Gratitude, man. I think that is, and I would say that's my strongest suit. And I will say that as confidently as possible at me, like them young people say. I am huge on gratitude. Like, and I think gratitude would take you a long way. Like, I believe it. I don't care, no matter how seemingly small the gesture is, I'm always ready to profess how grateful I am. I just because you didn't have to. You got out of your way and you did it. And I'm this guy, like, you see people sometimes they're like, "Yo, Herc, I don't understand. Like, why, like, yo, I'm forever in your debt because I was in a tough situation, and this is what gratitude did for me. You know, I've experienced some lows, man. We all have, but I can only speak for myself. I've experienced some lows, and remember, like, you know, sometime inside of last year, it was just a very huge um and scarring developmental process. You know, like, you feel like you're being branded, just, or I don't know, you're trying to carve something on your chest or so with a hook, with like a knife, and that's how it felt. I just, man, I was like, yo, I'm ready to just snap. You know what I'm saying? I had just lost my mother. It was just a messed up situation. And I got right into a relationship right after, which was amazing. But it's like now I'm living with the person, and just now I'm really, you guys have, you know, have significant others, and those, sometimes those people, they just put a mirror in front of you and you get to see yourself for who you really are. And I went through all kinds of emotions, just grief, and just realizing that there's a lot I wasn't doing right, and just shame, a lot of that. And but I also never lost the will to be better. Even at times when I felt at my worst, I just was like, I don't know I can do this. But then little by little, you know, I started understanding some things, and I woke up one day and I decided to be grateful about every little thing. And I realized how good my life was. It's like, I was like, wait, I got a driveway and a big ass backyard in DC? Bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, little things like that. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, I started looking around, little things I started being grateful for. And then I was like, you know what? Sometimes you are the problem. And it's just, it happens. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you're that big obstacle. And I also realized that, listen, when you really become connected with yourself, you you don't get really moved by like external factors so much. You know, somebody coming at me crazy, you know, unless I really have to defend myself, you know, I'm just like, dude, I got a good life. Like, I don't know what you're going through. I hope you feel better. And then again, it's easier said than done, because, you know, if push comes to shove, I'm still gonna drop you. But I'm just saying, like, you know, if when you in a good place, a place of peace, even when your partner is troubled, you're like, yo, I'm willing to share that burden with you, but I'm not gonna become that. I can't do this. I'm happy within myself. And I get your burden, I get your sorrow. My job is not to become it with you. My job is to help you get out of it, because I'm on solid ground. And, you know, that is another thing that helped me, is just being able to disconnect myself from a lot of those situations. Sometimes I feel like we just take so much in. And I used to be that guy. I could watch a movie, and then it triggers something in me from my childhood, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And I become that situation. And then that taught me that I was a very empathic person. So I was like, okay, now I understand this about me. Boom. So I kind of was able to compartmentalize a little more. And another thing I would say, especially for Black men out here, man, therapy, therapy, therapy. Please, therapy. Find you a good therapist. It's not corny. If you gotta cry, fucking cry. You will be so surprised. My therapist had put some, just hit some pressure points within me that honestly, you know, just it helped me come to terms with a lot, with my childhood, the earthquake, my relationship with my pops, like, you know, just a lot. And it gives you perspective on yourself, and also share your experience. You have to tell people all the aspects of your life, but whatever is you going through, best believe somebody's going through it 10 times worse. And you should remember at times when you were on your knees, times when you were down and you wish somebody had helped you out. And you ultimately, part of your development not only will allow you to empathize with folks, be more patient with them, but also being able to share your experience and just to give them hope. And that's how I give people hope. That's how I do it, man. It's a hopeless out here, man. People are hopeless. Like, it's bad. Really is bad. Like, one of my best friends shot himself last year. Like, bow. Just grew up in Haiti with me. Bullshit ass childhood. Like, they shot his pops. He tried to. They broke into his house, shot his sister, and she lived, and they shot him in the lungs. Went to the military. Son, see the bunch of bullshit. And mind you, coming from where I came from, adding all of this plus military experience on top of it, and this dude lost the whole convoy. He snapped. He couldn't do it. So hopelessness is real, so anytime you can share yourself with someone, time, it don't matter what it is, if it's your time or you can spare a little cash, whatever the case may be, as long as you give somebody a little bit of yourself, a little hope, man. And you don't know, if sometimes through some people are just, you got to let them be on their own until they figure it out, because they probably try to drag you down with them. That's another, that's discernment. So, but whatever you can do, if you can help your fellow man, your fellow Black men, fellow sisters, whatever the case may be, share yourself, share your experience, because, bro, like, I am a lucky person. I am aware enough to at least, I have enough depth of character to at least be curious about why I act the way I do, I acted the way I did. Because some people just go through life angry and then they snap.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
That's real. It's real.
I think, when I know you've been following, us for a long time, and we focus really heavily on mental health awareness, and how, especially within the community of men, and Black men, where you take on a lot, and processing your emotions, and as you said and put wonderfully, the importance of seeking out help, and as you go through your development, and I went through mine, where I've experienced that, where I've definitely went and seek help at times where I felt needed, and it helped also to align me with learning about what I had suppressed, areas about myself I needed to work on, growing up in a very tough environment, and the perspective it had on my outlook on my need to be perfect for everyone, but not just be what I needed to be for me. The moment I realized those things is when change really started to happen, because those are, like you said, those scars that you get of what you work through, the ugly truths, to face the man in the mirror. And sometimes it's not the easiest thing to do, because you feel as though you are filled with regret of time wasted. But rather than relishing, as you said, the gratitude of the time we have now. So being aware of those things is so important, and we strive, we push really hard on that, and thankful for you bringing that up, the importance of mental health awareness, and like why we focus on that, and the hope aspect of giving hope, and us bringing this sort of platform to the light to be able to be a beacon, to make a difference, to be a difference, in a time and place where that is not primarily a focus, because it's not entertaining enough, it's not popular enough, it's not what's in, with like being willing to lie to yourself. This is something we don't do here. So it's amazing that you were able to persevere the experiences you've been through, to be who you are, to speak on these topics, and for our longtime viewers, like, as you're listening, I'm sure this is relatable in some fashion, regardless of creed or ethnicity. Like, this is relatable because, again, as Herc put beautifully. This is the human experience, and what we have learned with tools of these things and these natures, and to speak on the health awareness aspect is like, look, if you're at a point, especially with men, that you are not ready for, to seek counseling in that regard, start working with yourself. There are podcasts such as what we are giving out with such an episode like this one, where it helps. I know it helped with me. That's where it started, where I started listening to those sort of podcasts that could kind of help me face certain truths about myself, from a woman perspective about emotions, to start breaking down barriers in myself, from men from, again, different ethnicities, but different perspectives, and it's all the same, where you've got to put you first because you matter. You've got to learn how to appreciate your sense of self-worth. We hear it all the time and it's cliche, right? But the reality of it is, it's true. Like, to its core, it's true, because you are here. So you should realize how much you matter. But in order to do that, you have to take control of your life and start making the decisions necessary if you choose to be better. Like Herc did, he had an epiphany where one day he woke up and life just was different because of his perspective change. Same thing happened with me. I woke up one day and I just remember feeling all the pressure of the world. And then when I had my breakthrough, I woke up and I just remember feeling like, and I told you about that, Jay, like, and I felt like the weight of the world was off my shoulder. And I was like, you know what? I just got to focus on me, because if this all ends now, the curtain closed. That's it. So I got to do what needs to be done for Will. I have to learn who he is. And for me, I had to go back, as I said, and address that childhood trauma, bring that part of me, the teenage years Will, bring that with me, my early 20s, bring it with me, the married Will, bring that part with me, to identify who the hell I am today, and who I choose to be, right? In my truth. So it's like you learn about yourselves, these different parts that you take. And I don't want to just focus on the trauma aspect, but you just a part of your journey that you take, and you have to address what's necessary. So men, women, men, please be sure to take the steps necessary so that you be here. So you be around, because there are people that care about you, man. The people that love you, that, word that men shy away from. I love my brothers that I have that are here with us on this podcast today dearly, both of them. So it's like you got to be willing to make that known while people are still here, and build a strong support system of people that's for you, people that will help be a part of the encouragement of the development for your change, your progress. But in order for that to happen, they have to be on the same wavelength as you. So if you're dealing with people who aren't quite there, you're going to get the same results that you've been getting. So you have to be willing to readjust your focus on your circle and strengthen it with like-minded individuals that seek change, that seeks growth, that seeks the things you seek, right? So in essence, the company that you keep will definitely help have an effect on your productivity and your growth. So please take those steps, man. If you got questions about how to go about that, DM us, DM any one of us. And we've all been through what you're going through in that regard. And clearly, I think this is an awesome episode to reflect on those sort of things. I can go on and on about it, but I'll just go ahead and stop there for now. But please take care of yourself, guys, and always remember that you matter, man. Like, you really do. So Jay, like, how do you feel about that? Just reflecting on what a lot of what Herc shared today.
I gotta say, I mean, with this episode, I learned so much about you, Herc. I know, of course, we've had conversations in the past, and we've always talked, and it's been a while since we caught up.
Yeah.
From this episode, I've learned so much more about myself. I learned so much more about perspective. I've learned so much more about gratitude, about patience, about continuing to look to the future, learning from your past instead of allowing that to destroy you. Understanding what it means, the damage that it does to you and those around you if you suppress those emotions and you continue to keep that locked up inside, and anytime you release it, it's negative energy, or you're putting it to the wrong usage. And I think from this episode, there's so much more than even I can do for myself, that I've learned from you, Herc. So I'm greatly appreciative to have you on this podcast and discuss your journey, a human experience. You started to where you are now and to where you are going.
Yeah. Yeah.
we want to thank you at this time for being a part of this podcast. It's very important for the Black community, specifically for Black men.
Hey, well, thank you for having me. I'm utterly grateful. I'm all gratitude. And I think you guys are definitely helping a lot, helping us out here. Giving there's a lot of people that they at least want to share a bit of themselves just to kind of help people out, just to give them a little bit of that hope, make them realize like, yo, that wall that you hit, it's not, believe it or not, it's not always going to be here. You're going to, it's like, it's a hurdle and you're going to jump over it. You're going to find better ways. And, I pray for those folks. And I also, pray for the ones that sometimes never get to go over that wall and they, take I can't even call it an easy way out because it takes balls, man. To just watch yourself, dim your light like that. It really does. And I'm saying this in all seriousness. I want to, but one last thing, just may bring people's awareness on suicide. It's a real deal, man. I'm saying this and I'm shivering as I'm saying it because it's real. It's real. A lot of people don't do it because they're not brave enough. It's a tough thing, but it's real. You got a lot of black men out here. The statistics out there, a lot of black men, they take that route. So I want to bring awareness to that. It's a big deal. And came at my doorstep myself. So I really want to make people bring that awareness. If you didn't have it already, you heard it on the podcast. Please take care of your health, your mental health, your physical, mental, mind, body, and soul. So thank y'all.
Absolutely. And Herc, I know that our community is going to want to reach out to you, man. Especially for some of the gems that you've dropped this evening and words of encouragement for some of the tough times that you had to deal with in the past couple of years.
Yes, sir.
So how can our community reach you?
Well, I'm not very active on social media. It's just something I do I don't even know. I'm like a lurker, but if you need to, call me and what I'm saying, like you're going through something or business inquiries, I'm a businessman at heart. I have my company. It's APH Dependable Healthcare. That's my actual company. I don't know if it's free advertising I'm doing here. Am I gonna have to pay for that?
So, this is all you, brother.
This is a community.
I got my company, APH Dependable Healthcare. My website is aphdhc.com. So we are a home care agency, and we take care of people with limited mobility, limited physical mobility, or if you like post-acute, post rehab or surgery, whatever the case may be. We definitely have a wide population of folks that we service in the PG, Montgomery, Baltimore City and County, Carroll County area, Charles County area. So, you can, that is my company. And also you need to call me, either business inquiries or do you have something that you want to share? You need somebody to talk to, whatever the case may be. My phone number is 301-586-2230. And my email, it's my first name, hercule223@gmail.com. So hercule223@gmail.com. You're going through something, you need somebody to listen to you, or whatever piece of advice that I can offer. I'm not a guru. I'm just going through the human experience, and I will share myself with you to the best of my abilities, because we all going through it. We just want to hear somebody admit that they do, and that they just punching their ways through life just like we all are.
Amen. Look, it's been a pleasure having you on. The one thing I can say through all of this is that there has been so much progress made for us three gentlemen out here, and I'm sure for those who are listening in our community, so much in this past hour for this podcast. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm feeling motivated. And the one thing about motivation is that it tends to not be as fleeting when you can feel and see the progress. Right? You can see your company growing. When you
I love it.
Absolutely. The money's rolling in, the life that you are able to change, it motivates you. And next week in our podcast, Herc, I hope you can tune in as well.
Oh, hey, listen, if you need me, I'm gonna pull up, man. Next week might be about just career, man, just growing professionally, not being static. So I'd love to share that, man. Get off that one income, y'all. All right, get off that shit.
Exactly. Multiple streams of income here, man.
So you can have
multiple streams.
You can have a job or whatever, but you got to sell some expertise on the side, man. Whatever you do,
Absolutely.
You need like a couple of them. Just get it right, baby.
Motivation. Too many opportunities out here.
Hey, listen, man. You got, man. Grateful.
Absolutely, bro. And for everyone who's out there watching or listening, again, we want to thank you for joining us. For those, if it's your first time, welcome. You came to one of the most impactful episodes that we've had on this podcast.
Yes, sir.
Been here before, and you still don't know what we're about. Let me spell it out for you. ACHROMOUS. We are on Spotify. We are even on TikTok. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're everywhere you can find or hear a podcast. But if you are watching this one, our beautiful faces are on it, of course, and you're looking at it on YouTube. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to hit that like button and hit that notification bell, and you hit that subscribe button. So the next time that you see the Achromous Podcast scrolling down on YouTube, you will be one of the first people in the world. Most of all.
Hey, again, we started it this way.
I'm going to come end it. You better hit that button.
Tell him, Herc.
You ain't lying. He will come for you.
He's going to come for you.
I'm going to look out.
It's free to do so.
That's crazy.
Haitian people, we got something we say, I don't practice my craft no more, but I didn't sell my tools.
You always keep the tools.
You gotta keep the tool, man. You know what I'm saying? Just in case. You know what I'm saying? So hit that button, y'all. To support
subscribe.
Y'all need me back next week. I'm back, man. I love the energy, yo.
Tune in, brother. We're here, man. Hey, look, everybody, enjoy the rest of your week.
All right, brother.
Be grateful. And until the next time, it is your boy J.H. Gibbons.
And we'll see.
Hey, Herc in the house, baby.
Yo.
Yeah.